Up next, we have Skeeter, who's Sustainability Manager for Canopy Airport Parking. Skeeter, if you're on the line.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ben. So good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the country. Obviously, I am Skeeter Buck, Sustainability Manager for Canopy Airport Parking. Go ahead, next slide, please. Canopy Airport Parking is a brand new building structure located in Commerce City, Colorado. We are owned and operated by ProPark America, which is based out of Hartford, Connecticut. We have our capital investment is a company called Greenest Capital out of Vancouver, British Columbia. We are very proud to say that with this new build and the design and construction that we put in place and the thought and commitment around environmentally friendly building structure, that we have become the greenest parking structure in the United States. When I say that, the next question we get is, what makes you green, which is always great. So here's just a kind of a smattering of what it is that we've installed on property. We have three forms of renewable energy. We deploy wind turbines, solar panels, and geothermal. The building, we have a footprint of about 42 acres, but the actual office area and reception area and cashier area inside of our valet parking area is in the process, the final review for us to be a LEED Gold certified facility or building. And we've gone through great measures to be able to accommodate that. The things that you don't see here on the screen is other measures that we put into place is we have installed or purchased our LEED or our steel that we purchased for our facility is made out of 35% recycled steel. The asphalt that we laid down was 25% recycled asphalt from roofing shingles. We made a great investment in our water conservation. So for a baseline, we're saving 50% on our water consumption use on property, and most of that comes from native and zero-scaping plants. But the other part that we really want to talk about is our EV charging stations, and I'll get to that in just a second. The other thing that we've done is we have deployed all alternative fuel vehicles. We have 15 shuttle vehicles on site right now, which transport our parkers to DIA, Denver International Airport, and return them back to our parking structure. Those are biodiesel and CNG vehicles. In addition to that, we have a relationship with the Governor's Energy Office, Colorado Carbon Fund. We purchase carbon credits to offset the remaining 200 metric tons of carbon that is produced by those alternative vehicles. Next slide, please. So about the EV charging stations that we deploy here on site, Paul kind of addressed this in his presentation, but the make that we have is called the Juice Bar charging station. They are a level 1 and a level 2 charging unit. Our motto, as Paul had introduced in his previous slide, is that we charge cars, not people. We have 6 dual charging stations on property right now. We've got 2 in our valet parking area, and then we've got 4 in our covered parking area installed on property. I think the bigger part here is that we're wired for 24 additional units in our covered parking area, which would mean we'd be able to charge another 48 vehicles in that covered parking area. Next slide, please. So what are the challenges? And these are good challenges to have. We are early adopters, and we are actually ahead of the curve, right? So The challenges that we deal with here in Colorado and the people that we draw from the neighboring states that park out at DIA is some of these people drive up to 600 miles to be able to access DIA airports. So obviously there's some range anxiety that goes along with that. Kind of puts those people out of the ballpark right now. But the other part of that is even the people that live in the Boulder area or in Denver area still experience this range anxiety. Can I get my car 30 or 40 miles to the airport and then park it over 3 days? And, our response to that is yes. And so a lot of that is kind of in our marketing that we do with trying to reach our off-airport parkers. Another part of that is the slice of the pie that I call it. DIA, I think, has, or DIA property has around 60,000 single parking places for their parkers to park out on their properties. And if you take that and slice that pie by how many people actually have electric vehicles, and then how many of them are actually taking those electric vehicles to Denver International Airport, there's another slice of the pie, and then how many of them are actually choosing Canopy Airport parking to park those vehicles. Next slide, please. So our motto is build it and they will come. As Paul had talked about, we're early adopters. We're about trying to nurture the electric vehicles in the United States and the rollout of that, and then also be a part of being providing electric vehicle infrastructure for so many reasons, because we believe electric vehicles are the wave of the future for all of the reasons that we talk about. They're environmentally friendly, they're cost containment, and on and on and on. And that it's a customer service element for us. For those people that are purchasing those electric vehicles, we want to be able to support them in their transportation needs. So again, build it and they will come, and ... Next slide. There's some work that we can do around that. And so what we've chosen to do here in the Colorado area is develop networking and collaboration relationships. So we have reached out and been embraced by these organizations here, Clean Cities Coalition, the Rocky Mountain Institute, obviously, based on today's call, and the National Renewable Energy Lab. And I want to add a caveat that goes back to the question and then a part of Paul's presentation, is that NREL, or actually the National Renewable Energy Lab, is in the process right now of building their own parking structure out of their campus in Golden, Colorado. They will be able to provide 1,800 parking places for their employees at their campus out there. And I may be wrong, so this is just a guess. I was out there about a month ago talking with them. Their plan is to install 60 EV charging stations. And obviously there's some kind of legalities that go around with that. They can't charge their employees, and it's a governmental facility, and on and on and on. But it is their intention to work through those issues. So end of bracket there. The other organization that we're partnering with is the Department of Public Health and Environment. They have an environmental leadership program that we are a silver member of, and that organization has around 125 members here in Colorado. And many of those are large corporations, Ball Aerospace and Ball Corp, White Wave, which is the manufacturer and maker of Horizon milk products. A lot of these companies are already dialed into the sustainability component, and they're beginning to purchase alternative vehicles for their companies. And it's important for those people that are traveling that they know that they can take those vehicles to DIA and charge with us. And then also we have some relationships with the Governor's Energy Office. And I kind of put these out here because I think that these are standard relationships that anybody in the parking industry and or anybody who is installing electric vehicle charging stations can make use of in your own community. Clean Cities Coalition is all over the place. Rocky Mountain has a big commitment to Project Ready. Every community has a Department of Public Health and Environment, and then most states have a Governor's Energy Office. These can be valuable networking and research resources for you. Next slide, please. So kind of our strategy here at Canopy Airport Parking is to continue to nurture those networking relationships and collaborations. With that, we have become a community partner with Clean Cities Coalition's Project Fever grant that they were just awarded. And Project Fever is, the acronym is Fostering Electric Vehicles Expansion in the Rockies. And basically this is going to be about a 12-month research project studying and researching the barriers to infrastructure implementation for electric vehicles. And we've become a community partner with them. They're excited about us because we're ahead of the curve. We've already been able to address the infrastructure component. And again, back to the other slide, the previous slides, is our challenge is we built it and we're waiting for them to come. Many communities are in the question and curious phase. So we're really looking forward to this project getting launched. And then the other strategy is build it and they will come, and when they do, we can expand. We are ready now, and we can expand to accommodate those additional electric vehicles that will be coming our way. And the other part of that is we continue to be a support service for the electric vehicle industry, and as a support service to our customers who are parking with us and who are doing the right thing by purchasing the electric vehicles. Next slide, please. And with that, I'd just like to thank you, and then also just acknowledge here that we are also a demonstrator site for the Green Parking Council that Paul is a member of. So I wanted to thank you all for that. Ben, back to you.
Thank you, Skeeter. We actually do have a couple questions for you, so I will hand it off to Jay to ask those.
Yeah, Skeeter, just a couple of quick questions. Really, the first one is, kind of who pays for, kind of in, kind of the scenario that you were describing, especially at DIA, kind of who pays for the power, kind of under that scenario? Does the airport, the utility, or, kind of Canopy, kind of who is the ultimate payer of the, kind of the cars?
Yeah, sure. Of the power to power the EV charging stations?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Canopy. The great thing for us is that it's a service that we want to offer, and with that we've tapped into as much renewable energy resources as what we can out there. We've got the geothermal, the solar, and the wind. And anybody who's in manufacturing of electric vehicle charging stations, that it really doesn't cost that much to actually charge a car. And it's just one of the things that we want to take on as a company to be able to provide the service to our customers.
Got it. And then kind of a follow-up to that question is, what about any additional demand that it adds to, kind of Canopy's utility bill? How is that, kind of managed or handled?
Yeah, really good question. So, one of the things that we're really proud of is that with, being LEED, in the process of being LEED certified at a gold level, and then the 3 forms of renewable energy that we have out on property, we've been able to reduce the proposed energy consumption for a property such as ours, with a baseline ASHRA for a new construction by 70%. So not only did we do the right thing by doing renewable energy, but everything else that we did, we looked at under an energy consumption basis. So we're saving about 70%. And what that means for us out at Canopy is that's almost $90,000 a year that we're saving in energy costs. So there's that piece, and we've got at this point in time, 6 EV charging stations. And, what we know is that less than 50% of the time they're being utilized at this moment. Now, I hope it's a different story next year, but that's the truth that we're dealing with right now. The second part of that is we're in the process of taking a look at being able to track that energy consumption for the future. When we did the design and construction for our facility, we're sub-metered, but we don't actually know at this point in time. We didn't take it to the next step of being able to tie everything into the sub-metering and report it out. But we're taking a look at changing that right now, just being able to anticipate future energy demands. And then also with that is that the great thing about this property that we have here is that we have got room to expand our solar. And I think our goal for the future is to try to become a net zero property. And we've certainly got the space to be able to continue to add solar panels for that. So.
Got it. That makes sense. Thanks. And then just one, there's several more questions that are popping up, but I think we have time for one or two more. One of the things that popped up here really was, let me scroll to the top of this. How does Canopy, can you get into a little more specifics in terms of, kind of the process and how you deal with, kind of a long-term solution, kind of when cars are parked there, in a Canopy space for days? How do, and how do others use them? Kind of what's really the long-term, kind of solution for, kind of this parking plan?
Yeah, great. Really good question. And I think Paul kind of tipped off to that, which is kind of the valet parking scenario. We've got 3 forms of parking out at our facility. We've got open air where you park yourself. We have covered parking where you park yourself, and then we've got indoor valet. But the plan that we've not actually had to put into operation yet, but the plan is that when somebody's coming in with an electric vehicle, what most likely we'll do is have that be an automated or an automatic valet parking option. So not that we would be charging somebody valet parking services, but it's almost a benefit of using an electric vehicle is that they would come into the valet staging area. We would take their keys. We would park their vehicle in one of the charging locations, get a full charge on it, and then have designated parking areas for those people to come back when they return from their trip to be able to pick up their vehicles. We've got about 4,200 parking spaces at our facility. Excuse me. So it's a logistical operations piece that we would the plan that is the plan for it. Because you in many ways you want to reward people for doing the right thing, and because we already have valet parking services, we would probably deploy it in that way.
Got it. And then one quick last question is, kind of if you could briefly touch on what are your expansion plans and what cities are you really focusing on, and what cities are next?
That's a really good question. What I can say is that our parent company is based in Hartford, Connecticut, and again, it's Pro Park America. We happen to be the flagship property in regards to green technology for them. So I would be speaking a little bit out of turn at this point in time to talk about any potential other locations. I don't really have an answer for that at this moment.
Great. Thanks, Skeeter. This is Ben again. We are getting quite a few questions, but we will have to address those later or offline. I want to thank you for a great presentation so far.
Great, thank you. And I forgot to put my email address in there, so maybe you can get that out to the group.
Will do. We'll certainly do that.
Thank you.
We'll put that out in the minutes along with the full playback of this webinar. So